The vast emptiness of space stretched for light years in every direction. Only the faintest glimmer of distant stars interrupted the endless dark. A ship drifted silently through the void, its hull covered in scratches and faded paint, marking years of neglect and age. To any observer, it would seem like another forgotten relic from a bygone era. Yet this was no ordinary ship. This was the Sparrowhawk, an ancient vessel from Earth's early days of exploration, small and battered, yet still holding on to the secrets of humanity's past. The Federation barely took notice of it at first. A ship this old could not possibly pose a threat to their vast empire. Their fleet commanded the galaxy, and they had dealt with far worse threats than an abandoned human warship. Captain Miranda Cole stood at the helm of the Sparrowhawk, staring out into the stars. The crew of misfits who had chosen to serve aboard her had become her family. They had no illusions about their ship's capabilities, but they shared one belief, a belief that they were ready to prove to the universe humanity had a place among the stars. The ship's engines hummed softly, barely able to produce enough power to keep the Sparrowhawk moving forward, yet they had managed to make it this far using their wits and skills to keep the ship functional long after others would have given up. The crew worked in silence, each member focused on their assigned tasks, repairing systems that were long overdue for maintenance, tracking resources that were growing dangerously low. Captain Cole knew the challenges they faced. The Sparrowhawk wasn't equipped for combat, much less against the might of the Federation fleet, but there was one thing they had that no one else did: a deep understanding of how to survive against impossible odds. A soft chime echoed from the communications console. A transmission had been received from Federation Command. A voice crackled through the speakers, the officer on the other end barely even acknowledging the ship's existence. Just as expected, the Federation had no interest in their activities. "This is Federation Command," the voice said in a tone of indifference. "We are aware of your position, the human ship Sparrowhawk. We are currently monitoring your progress. As per standard protocol, do not interfere with Federation operations. Your presence here is noted. Do not attempt to engage Federation vessels. You are advised to leave this region immediately." Captain Cole looked at the message and smirked. The Federation had no idea what they were dealing with. They thought they could just ignore them, let them drift through space forgotten. But the crew of the Sparrowhawk wasn't here to be forgotten. Captain Cole turned to her crew, her voice calm but filled with determination. "We're not going anywhere. This is our time." The crew looked back at her with a mix of hope and excitement. They knew this was just the beginning. The ship they had once thought insignificant was now something much more. They were ready to make their mark, and the galaxy would soon know what it meant to underestimate humanity. The crew of the Sparrowhawk was anything but ordinary. They were a collection of misfits from all corners of Earth, each one drawn to this ship for their own reasons, but united by a single purpose: to prove that humanity could stand tall among the stars. Captain Miranda Cole stood at the front of the command deck, her sharp eyes scanning the monitors in front of her. She had always been a natural leader, but this was different. This was no ordinary mission. This was their chance to show the galaxy what humanity was made of. Beside her stood Lieutenant Isaac Brooks, an engineer whose hands were always covered in grease and wires. His mind worked faster than most people could keep up with, and he had an uncanny ability to fix just about anything, no matter how broken. Next to him was Sergeant Eliza Hart, a former soldier who had seen the worst of war. Her tactical mind was unmatched, and her skills in combat were only rivaled by her deep loyalty to her crew. She had fought in battles across Earth and was now ready to bring that experience to the stars. Across the room was Dr. Emily Chen, a scientist whose knowledge of alien technology had made her invaluable. She had been brought onto the crew not only for her intellect, but also for her ability to think outside the box when it came to finding solutions to problems no one else could solve. In the back of the room was Jack Reynolds, a former hacker who had spent most of his life navigating the digital world. His ability to infiltrate enemy systems and extract information was something the Federation would never see coming. Together, they made up the heart of the Sparrowhawk, a ship that was far more than just a collection of metal and wires. It was a symbol of what humanity could accomplish when faced with adversity. The ship had seen better days. Its hull was pitted and scarred from years of neglect, but every scratch and dent told a story of survival. They had managed to keep her alive using every ounce of resourcefulness and ingenuity they had. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. The crew worked tirelessly to keep the ship operational. They had no choice with limited resources and no support. They were on their own, but that was how they preferred it. They had learned long ago that when everything seemed against them, that was when they thrived. They had come to space with nothing but hope and determination, and now they were ready to show the galaxy what humanity was capable of. Captain Cole walked through the corridors of the ship, checking in with each member of her crew. As they worked, she was proud of them, proud of how they had come together and how they had never given up no matter how hard things got. She knew that the Federation saw them as insignificant, but that didn't matter because the crew of the Sparrowhawk knew something the galaxy didn't. They knew that humanity had an unmatched resilience, a drive to survive, and a willingness to do whatever it took to overcome any obstacle. The Federation might have dismissed them, but that would be their mistake. They would soon learn that humanity was far more than just a footnote in the history of the galaxy. They were about to make their mark, and nothing would stop them. The Sparrowhawk drifted through space like a forgotten ghost, its faded hull barely visible against the backdrop of distant stars. The crew moved quietly aboard the ship, knowing that their situation was delicate. They had made their mark once, but this time they were facing something different. Captain Cole stood on the command deck, her eyes focused on the screens ahead. She could feel the tension in the air. The ship had been on a routine cargo run. When they had stumbled across the Federation patrol, it was a minor skirmish at best, but it was a chance to prove something. The patrol ship, the Lancer, was a sleek Federation vessel capable of fast maneuvers and powerful weapons. Its crew was well trained, and its captain was known for his strict adherence to protocol. Captain Varlin was no stranger to dealing with threats, but he had never encountered a ship like the Sparrowhawk before. The Federation had dismissed them once, but this time Cole wasn't going to let that happen again. She turned to her crew and gave them a simple order: get ready to make a move. Sergeant Hart moved to the weapons console. She wasn't expecting a full engagement, but she was prepared for whatever came next. Lieutenant Brooks began running diagnostics on the ship's outdated systems, working with what they had to ensure they could fight if needed. Turchen and Jack Reynolds took their positions, ready to assist with their respective areas, hacking into enemy systems and searching for any weaknesses. Captain Cole knew that the Lancer was faster and more powerful, but what they lacked was the human ingenuity to make something out of nothing. They had no idea what the Sparrowhawk and its crew were capable of. As the Lancer approached the Sparrowhawk, Captain Varlin's voice crackled through the comms. "The Federation vessel is here," he said dismissively. "This is Federation vessel Lancer to human ship Sparrowhawk. You are in violation of Federation space. Please power down and prepare to be boarded." Cole's lips curled into a smile. She knew the Federation would try to intimidate them with their authority, but the crew of the Sparrowhawk wasn't afraid of their empty threats. "We're not going anywhere," Cole responded, her voice steady and calm. "We've got something to prove, and we're not backing down." The Federation vessel moved closer, the threat of weapons fire becoming more imminent. Captain Varlin didn't expect the humans to fight back. They were outgunned, outclassed, and out of their league. In his mind, this would be an easy mission to show the galaxy that humanity was no threat at all. He was wrong. Cole signaled to her crew, and with quick precision the Sparrowhawk began moving into position. She ordered a series of quick, evasive maneuvers, making it nearly impossible for the Lancer to lock onto their location. Brooks worked his magic on the ship's systems, reprogramming the outdated targeting systems to give them a fighting chance. Sergeant Hart took the first shot, targeting the Lancer's engines with a precision strike that left the Federation ship staggering. The battle was on. But this wasn't a battle of strength. This was a battle of will. The Sparrowhawk had something the Lancer did not: creativity and the human drive to survive against all odds. Captain Varlin's confidence began to crack as his crew scrambled to regain control of their ship. The humans were making them look foolish, and they didn't know how to stop it. The battle had begun in earnest, and Captain Cole felt the adrenaline rush through her veins. The Federation vessel, the Lancer, was no longer an invincible force in her mind. It was just another target, and she had everything she needed to take it down. Surgeon Hart moved quickly, her fingers dancing over the weapons console. She had been in countless battles, but this felt different. The stakes were higher, the humans were outgunned, but they had something the Lancer could never replicate, a will to survive that was unmatched by any enemy. She fired again, and the Sparrowhawk's weapon systems hummed to life, sending a blast straight toward the Lancer's engines. The impact was precise. The Lancer shuddered as its power core flickered and began to sputter out of control. The Lancer's Captain Varlin cursed under his breath. He had underestimated the humans. He had expected them to fold under the pressure. Instead, they were playing a game he had never learned how to play, a game of adaptability and survival at any cost. Brooks was busy working his magic on the Sparrowhawk's systems, his fingers flying over the controls, his mind focused entirely on the task at hand. The ship's outdated tech was nothing compared to what the Federation possessed, but that didn't matter. Brooks knew how to make even the oldest systems perform like they were brand new. He rerouted power to the shields and adjusted the ship's trajectory to stay one step ahead of the Federation's attacks. Chen and Jack Reynolds worked in tandem, their skills complementing each other like a well-oiled machine. Chen was hacking into the Lancer's communication systems, while Reynolds scoured the Federation's networks looking for any weakness they could exploit. Within moments, Reynolds found a crack in the Lancer's defenses, a small backdoor into its internal systems. He passed the information to Cole, who wasted no time in giving the order. The Sparrowhawk changed course, again diving into a nearby asteroid field. Using the asteroids as cover, the Lancer's sensors weren't capable of tracking them in the dense field, and it was only a matter of time before the Federation ship's own overconfidence led them right into their trap. Cole grinned to herself. The Federation had no idea what was coming. They thought they were dealing with an old ship, an easy target, but they were wrong. Humanity didn't need the most advanced weapons to win. They just needed their minds and their hearts. The Lancer's captain was now growing frantic. His ship was in disarray. His crew was struggling to regain control of their systems, and the Sparrowhawk was nowhere to be seen. His crew scrambled to search for their enemy, but Cole had already anticipated their next move. She signaled to Brooks, who activated the Sparrowhawk's cloaking system, temporarily masking their presence. The Lancer's crew panicked, their sensors scanning wildly for any sign of the enemy ship, but it was too late. The Sparrowhawk emerged from behind an asteroid and fired a final shot straight into the Lancer's main engine reactor. The explosion rocked the Federation vessel, sending it spiraling out of control. The Federation captain could only watch in disbelief as his ship was destroyed. The Sparrowhawk had done it once again. The Sparrowhawk had done it. The Lancer was no more a heap of twisted metal and broken systems, floating helplessly in the void. Captain Cole stood tall as she watched the results on the monitors. She could feel the weight of the moment, but she didn't let it show. They had won, but this victory came with consequences. The Federation would not take this lightly. The crew knew that their actions had drawn the attention of far more dangerous enemies, and Captain Cole knew that they would soon be facing something much bigger than a single patrol ship. The crew of the Sparrowhawk moved quickly to assess the damage they had inflicted on the Lancer and make sure their own ship was still intact. Brooks was already on the comms with his engineers coordinating repairs to the ship's systems. Surgeon Hart was checking the weapons array, making sure the Sparrowhawk could fight again if needed. Cole turned to her crew, knowing that the battle had only just begun. They had proven that humanity could survive in the harshest conditions, but the real test was yet to come. She wasn't sure what the Federation's response would be, but she knew one thing for sure: they would come after them with everything they had, and this time it wouldn't just be one ship, it would be an entire fleet. The thought made Cole smile a little as she looked around the room. Her crew was unlike anything the Federation had ever encountered. They weren't bound by protocol or rigid military rules. They fought with everything they had and did what was necessary to survive. They had been underestimated before, but the Federation wouldn't make that mistake again. Before Cole could speak, the ship's comms buzzed once more, a message from Federation Command. This one was different, though the tone was far more serious and urgent. "This is Federation Command," a voice crackled through the speakers. "We have received reports of your actions against a Federation vessel We advise you to stand down and prepare for a direct encounter with Federation forces. We will not tolerate further attacks on Federation assets. Your actions have consequences." Cole leaned forward and grinned. She knew this was coming, but it didn't change anything. The Federation might threaten them, but they didn't understand who they were dealing with. They thought they could scare humanity into submission. They thought humanity was just a small, insignificant species to be ignored and forgotten. But the crew of the Sparrowhawk knew better. Captain Cole turned to her crew with fire in her eyes and a voice full of conviction. "This is just the beginning. They're coming for us, and they won't stop until they think they've destroyed us. But we're not backing down. We'll keep fighting. We'll show them that humanity is not to be underestimated." The crew looked back at her with determination. They had already proven their worth once, and they would do it again. They had faced the Federation's might and come out on top, and they would do it again. They weren't just a ship anymore. They were a symbol of humanity's resilience, a symbol of what could happen when you refuse to be ignored. The Federation had made a mistake in thinking the Sparrowhawk was just a relic from Earth's past. It wasn't just an old warship. It was the future of humanity. And humanity was unstoppable. The crew of the Sparrowhawk knew the Federation wasn't going to stop now. They had made their move and proven that humanity had something to fight for, but they had also painted a target on their backs. Captain Cole stood at the helm, her hands gripping the controls. She was calm, but she could feel the pressure mounting. They had fought off one ship, but now they had an entire fleet coming their way, and they couldn't afford to make any mistakes. Sergeant Hart was already preparing for the worst. She was by the weapons console once again, her eyes scanning for any movement. She knew that if they were going to survive this, it would take everything they had and then some. Lieutenant Brooks worked tirelessly alongside his team to patch up the Sparrowhawk systems. They had taken some damage during the skirmish with the Lancer, and while the ship was still functional, it was far from perfect. Every system was running on a shoestring budget, and Brooks had to make do with whatever resources they had left. Jack Reynolds sat in front of the communication console, tapping into the Federation's networks. He knew the coming battle would depend on their ability to outsmart their enemies, and they needed every advantage they could get. Durchen paced back and forth, her mind running through potential strategies. The Sparrowhawk wasn't the fastest or the most powerful ship, but it was small and nimble. That could work to their advantage if they played their cards right. Cole looked around at her crew, each of them focused on their tasks. They were ready for what was coming. They knew that the Federation wouldn't back down, but neither would they. They were fighting for something greater than just survival. They were fighting for humanity's place in the stars. The message from Federation Command had been clear. They had no intention of letting the Sparrowhawk get away with what they had done. Captain Varlin had reported their actions, and now the full might of the Federation was on their way to deal with them. Cole wasn't scared. In fact, she was almost excited. She had known this day would come. She had known the Federation wouldn't just let them go. They had drawn a line in the sand, and now it was time to fight for everything they had worked for. The first Federation ships began to appear on the radar, and Captain Cole felt her heartbeat quicken. She gave her crew a brief look, a silent message passing between them. This was it. They were about to face down the might of the Federation. "We've done it before," Cole said, her voice steady. "Now, let's show them what we're really made of." Sergeant Hart nodded, her fingers hovering over the weapons controls. The Sparrowhawk was ready to go to war. Brooks ran a final check on the ship's systems, making sure everything was running as smoothly as possible. With limited power, he had optimized everything he could to make sure they wouldn't go down without a fight. The ship shuddered as the first shots from the Federation fleet rang out. The Sparrowhawk was small, but it was fast, and it was moving through space like a ghost. They weren't going to go down easy, not now, not ever. The Federation fleet didn't know it yet, but they were about to face something unlike anything they had ever encountered, and they wouldn't be prepared for the fight of their lives. The Federation fleet had arrived, and it was a sight to behold. Hundreds of ships, massive war vessels, gleaming with the power of the galaxy's most advanced technology. They were powerful and precise, but they were also overconfident. Captain Cole stared at the fleet on the display, her crew silent around her, waiting for her next command. The odds were against them. The Federation had come in full force expecting an easy victory, but Cole knew better. She knew that the Sparrowhawk wasn't going to go down without a fight. She turned to her crew, her voice steady. "We have one chance at this," she said. "We've got to outsmart them. We're not going to beat them with firepower, but we can beat them with our brains and our will." The crew nodded in agreement. They had always known this was never about strength. It was about finding a way to survive. Sergeant Hart's hands moved over the weapons console, already targeting the first Federation ship. She could feel the weight of the moment, but she didn't hesitate. Her instincts were sharp, and she knew that the first shot had to count. Lieutenant Brooks had already begun rerouting power from non-essential systems to enhance their shields and speed. They were going to need every advantage they could get to avoid getting hit, while still being able to strike back when the time was right. Jack Reynolds was hacking into the Federation's communication network, once more looking for weaknesses. He had done it before, and he was going to do it again. The Federation thought their systems were impenetrable, but Reynolds knew how to make them work in their favor. Turchen was already formulating a plan. The Sparrowhawk was small and agile, but she had to make sure they used every inch of their ship's capabilities. She had no doubt they could pull this off if they worked together and kept their wits sharp. The first shots rang out. The Federation ships were opening fire without hesitation, their massive guns lighting up the darkness of space. But the Sparrowhawk was already moving quickly, darting between incoming fire like a shadow in the night. Sergeant Hart fired back, hitting one of the Federation ship's engines with a precision strike. The ship staggered but didn't go down yet. "We're not here to destroy them," Cole said, her voice calm but filled with determination. "We're here to send a message. We're here to show them that we can fight back." She gave the order, and the Sparrowhawk dove deeper into the chaos of the battle, using the debris from the destroyed Federation ships as cover. The crew knew that if they stayed out of the line of fire, they could pick off the Federation's weaker ships one by one. It was a risky move, but they had no choice. The Federation fleet was relentless, and they couldn't afford to be caught in the open. The Sparrowhawk's speed was its greatest asset. The crew was using every trick they knew to stay one step ahead of their enemies. Every time the Federation thought they had them cornered, the Sparrowhawk slipped away. The Federation ships began to lose their composure. The smaller ships were no match for the Sparrowhawk's maneuverability, and the larger ships were struggling to lock onto them. Captain Cole could see it in their faces on the comms. The Federation fleet wasn't used to being outsmarted. They weren't used to being made to look like fools. And that's exactly what they were becoming. The tables were turning, and the Federation had no idea what was about to hit them. The Federation fleet was now in full retreat. Captain Cole watched the displays with a growing sense of satisfaction. The once mighty armada that had come to crush them was now scattering, trying to regain control of the battle. They had underestimated humanity's resolve, and they were paying the price for it. Sergeant Hart's eyes never left the weapons console as she fired another shot, hitting a Federation ship with pinpoint accuracy. It was a clean strike, and the ship's engines exploded, sending debris flying through space. The Sparrowhawk was smaller and faster, but it had proven to be a deadly adversary against the Federation's overwhelming firepower. Cole knew that this wasn't just a victory for their crew, it was a statement to the entire galaxy. "We're not going anywhere," she whispered to herself, the words carrying a weight that only her crew could understand. Lieutenant Brooks had rerouted power to the engines once more, and now the Sparrowhawk was outpacing the Federation ships. Every move they made was calculated. Every dodge and evasive maneuver was designed to confuse and frustrate the larger fleet. Jack Reynolds had been quiet for a while, but now he was back at his console, working with precision, his fingers flying over the keys as he sent a final message to the Federation fleet, a direct broadcast to the command ship of their retreating forces. "You're not in charge here anymore," Reynolds said as he sent the message out to the Federation fleet. The display showed that it was reaching every ship in the command network. It was a bold move, but it was one that needed to be made. The Federation needed to understand that humanity was no longer a passive participant in the galaxy. They were going to stand up for themselves and carve out their own place among the stars. Turchen was reviewing the data on the screen and looked up at Captain Cole. "We've got them on the run," she said. "They're disorganized and scattered. They're not going to be able to regroup for a while." Cole nodded as she turned her focus back to the battlefield. The Federation might be powerful, but they weren't prepared for the unpredictability of human ingenuity and resourcefulness. As the last of the Federation ships fled from the battlefield, Cole let out a breath. She hadn't realized she had been holding. They had done it. They had won this battle. But the war was far from over. The Sparrowhawk had proven its worth, but the Federation wasn't just going to forget about them. They would be back with more ships, more weapons, and more forces. But now Captain Cole and her crew were ready. They had shown what they were capable of, and they had done it with nothing but their wits and their will to survive. The message had been sent loud and clear to the galaxy. Humanity wasn't going to be pushed around anymore. They were no longer the weak species overlooked by the powers that be. They were a force to be reckoned with. Captain Cole stood tall and looked at her crew. "One last time, we did it," she said softly. "We did it together." And that was just the beginning.